The More Than Meets the Eye collection is quickly becoming sort of a second chance generator for collectors. And by that, I mean it's giving fans another chance to buy figures that were previously really hard to find. Whether that be because one of them or both of them were in a retailer exclusive set that became very expensive on the aftermarket. Either way, I'm happy to see it. It makes things more accessible. Welcome one and all to the display case. I'm Nate, and today we're looking at Transformers Studio Series, Transformers Devastation, Wheeljack, and Sideswipe from the More Than Meets the Eye collection. These boxes line up with what we've seen previously from the MTMTE collection, with that really nice red styling with the white mixed in throughout. It gives it a bit of distinction from the regular Studio Series boxes. Each one has some awesome key art of each character, Wheeljack and Sideswipe, on the front in both their robot and vehicle modes, as well as some Transformers branding, Studio Series, Transformers Devastation logo, and the step counter for the transformation that absolutely nobody uses. The key art is replicated on the left side of the box with some name tags there. I guess you can display these boxes lined up against one another. And then on the back you get your usual renders of Wheeljack and Sideswipe in both their robot and vehicle modes presented with their accessories. We also get some descriptions of Transformers Devastation and what Wheeljack and Sideswipe are doing in the game, as well as some screenshots from the game itself. And I'm happy to report there aren't any typos or spelling mishaps. I guess they must have learnt their lesson. So these guys are getting on in years in terms of molding. Wheeljack is from Earthrise, so that was 2020. Sideswipe is from Kingdom, which was a year later in 2021. I was kind of expecting him to have some sort of mold degradation, but that really wasn't the case here. And that's not from underutilization of the molds either. These guys have been reprinted a million times, for either different characters or the same character with different paint jobs. So let's have a look at what makes these versions different from the previous versions of Sideswipe and Wheeljack. And I am only going to compare the same molds, not Siege Sideswipe, mainly because I couldn't find him in my big tub of Transformers that I have. But I love having these guys together because, mostly for Wheeljack, these guys bring something new to the table every time there's a new one released. Sideswipe, on the other hand, is a little bit of a sidestep. He's mostly the same with a couple of different aspects. While they are based on G1 though, the original Devastation models were based on the Classics molds and vehicle modes, so they might be a little bit different. Wheeljack has some more angled green and red stripes on his legs, as well as a dark grey stripe where his vent is. He's also got some really nice plastic colouring with a really pure white and a nice cartoony grey, with a lighter grey for his head and beautiful blue tint for his eyes, a cel shaded chest, and new striping where his Autobot symbol is. He also comes with a really nice new G1 style blaster that's modelled after the ones in Transformers Devastation, which is moulded in a nice grey plastic. While he differs significantly from the original Earthrise Wheeljack, the difference between this one and the Autobot 5-pack Wheeljack is minimal. In fact, it's probably down to just some more simplified G1 style paint. Mostly on the chest and the chest window, which is now cel shaded and has less red on it. But now that I'm looking at all three of them together, I do think that each version of Wheeljack that we've got caters to a different audience of what people would like from Transformers toys in general. Earthrise Wheeljack caters to that ultra-realistic depiction, with all those decals on it and that increased level of paint. The 5-pack Wheeljack really caters to those that want that toony aesthetic, almost to a fault. It has little detail, but lots of accuracy to the cartoon. The new one is very similar to the 5-pack version, but has more detail in its paint apps, not to mention the cel-shaded chest, which goes above and beyond, for me at least, the plain blue opaque colour. And to be honest, that blaster is a neat little cherry on top. Sideswipe goes in sort of a different direction, with the paint apps not really being new, but just a little bit different. There's even some missing. He has also come with the same exact accessories that every iteration of Sideswipe has had ever since Siege, that is, his shoulder cannon and his blaster. And the only difference here is that the blaster is silver instead of white, and the shoulder cannon has a silver stripe on it. Unfortunately though, and this is a big one, he's got the wrong head. He's actually got Red Alert's head instead of Sideswipe's. You can see the difference here when I put it up next to Kingdom Sideswipe and then compared to Kingdom Red Alert. And I won't lie, this is a huge oversight on Hasbro's part. Aside from that, he is rocking some new paint apps with silver on his feet instead of white, some expanded headlight paint that go up his chest, a larger Autobot symbol, and some nice light grey and baby blue for his face and eyes. He is, however, missing both the white triangle on his crotch plate and the white line or silver line on his forehead. Despite some of those negatives though, I still think that this guy is one of the best molds we've ever gotten in modern Transformers. After all, it is most definitely the most versatile. And I'm not going to complain too much, because the original Sideswipe in Kingdom was sold as a 2-pack with a Maximal, I think, so he was harder to get. I believe he was Amazon exclusive. So this one coming out at regular retail, here in Australia anyway, is a welcome change to all the exclusives. And I think that goes as well for most of what Hasbro is doing at the moment. They're doing less retail gatekeeping than they used to do in the past by having more of these sort of rare figures come back in some form or fashion. Sideswipe and Wheeljack are the 4th and the 5th figures to come out in the Transformers Devastation line, and they scale pretty well with the last 2 that came out, the Devastation Ground Soldier and the Devastation Elite Seeker, both pre-existing molds, just like these 2 here. But they scale a little bit worse with the first Devastation figure we got, which is the Devastation Deluxe Optimus Prime. He stands significantly shorter than he is supposed to with these figures, at least compared to the game, and especially compared to the Commander Class Optimus Prime, which actually stands at the perfect height. And I know that the Devastation Deluxe Optimus Prime was built to scale with the Studio Series Devastator, but I just can't put all of these guys together without feeling that Optimus Prime is severely underscaled. But who knows, maybe in the future we'll get a leader class version of the Commander Optimus Prime branded as Devastation without the trailer and all the accessories, and maybe with cel shading as well. That'd be great. And speaking of great, these guys are tried and true molds, so their articulation has been widely documented, but let's go over it anyway, starting with Wheeljack. He's got a ball-jointed head that can rotate all the way around, as well as move forward and back just a little bit, and the same amount side to side. We get shoulder joints that go all the way up because of a double-jointed system in the transformation, a full rotation as well, full bicep swivel, single-jointed elbows that bend up 90 degrees, as well as a fully rotating wrist joint, a fully rotating waist, and then hips that can move forwards, backwards, and out to the side 90 degrees, a full thigh swivel, a 90-degree bend at the knee, and 45-degree tilt at the ankle. Sideswipe has a similar amount of articulation, including a head that has a ball joint at the base of the neck, allowing it to go up and down, rotate around, and tilt to the side well enough, hinges at the shoulders that go up 90 degrees and rotate all the way around, as well as a mushroom peg bicep swivel, a 90-degree bend at the elbow, full rotation at the waist, forwards, backwards, sideways hips with a 90-degree bend at the knee, and then a fairly decent ankle tilt as well. So yeah, these guys are about as reliable as Transformers can get. They're almost the linchpin of the Autobot team on your shelf. And while the articulation is up to modern standards, I do feel like these molds are a little bit aged and could do with a bit of a refresh. And to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing new molds for Sideswipe and Wheeljack appear in the near future, given that they're starting to redo some of the older Earthrise characters with new molds. Cough cough, Studio Series Thundercracker. But just like the articulation, the transformation on these guys is just as iconic. So besides from getting Sideswipe at retail, here you get to see the other thing that people were really excited about for these figures, the cell shading. Surprisingly enough though, they're actually different between the two of them. Sideswipe's is more toony, I guess, whereas Wheeljack's is more subdued. They're also two different shades of blue. I will say that I do prefer Sideswipes over Wheeljack's just because it has more white in it. It gives it that much more depth. Sideswipe also comes with painted tail lights this time. It is just like a little orange stripe, but it is better than what we've gotten previously. Wheeljack though unfortunately is just left with nothing. It is worthy of note though that there are a few 5mm ports across the bodies of both of these cars in which you can plug the weapons that the guys come with. I do appreciate the storage, but I don't really like how they look. Here you can also see the differences that the new ones bring over the previous versions of Sideswipe and Wheeljack. Alongside the changes I mentioned before, the new Sideswipe has a more streamlined front bumper paint app, the new headlights which are just paint apps and aren't molded into the design outside of the original version, and obviously the cell shading makes it look much more bright and toony as Devastation was. I think I prefer the new version of Wheeljack compared to the Autobot 5-pack version and the Earthrise version because it's sort of a medium between the two. It's not quite perfect though, I really wish it had those numbers on the side and maybe a couple more decals, but that sort of stuff can be fixed with something like a Toy Hacks label. I do appreciate though that the windscreen has a little bit more depth and paneling on it because of the cell shading. You can sort of see where the pillars of the windscreen are, which I like. Again though, neither of these unfortunately work in scale with the first character in the Devastation line, Deluxe Optimus Prime. He's just way too small to be able to be even compared to these two newer Deluxes. And it's even making me consider not comparing him to any future ones because I'm not sure if he's even supposed to scale, especially when you compare the newer ones to the Commander class Optimus Prime, which is just leaps and bounds better than the other one. And who am I kidding? Of course a Commander is going to be better than a Deluxe, but I've just been getting used to the way Hasbro has been hitting it out of the park recently with their scaling, and I really wish that carried over into this line. Overall though, I am really happy that we're starting to get more opaque windows in our figures from Hasbro. These feel very toony to me and it's kind of what I prefer, But I do get that people want transparent windows as well, so hopefully we get a nice share of both going into the future. That way, you can just buy what you like, and nobody can judge you for it. At the end of the day, these guys are built from molds that are tried and tested and successful in their own way. They're sturdy and reliable in their transformations and look good from almost every angle. And like I said before, they're a linchpin for any Autobot display. While I do wish they came with more different accessories, like Wheeljack's new blaster, it would have been cool if he came with those wrenches he uses in the game, or some different blasters, or even Sideswipe swords. That would have been really cool. I think you should especially get these if you don't already have a Wheeljack or a Sideswipe in your collection. They might come out with new molds tomorrow even, but it doesn't diminish the fact that these are good figures, and that they come with enough and they have new features about them that make them worth picking up. Thank you so much for watching my video. I really hope you enjoyed it. I've got plenty more on my channel just like this one. If you like my content, feel free to subscribe, leave a like, or even a comment with your own thoughts on Sideswipe and Wheeljack. I look forward to reading them. Thank you again, and we'll catch up soon.